Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy last trading day of May. How is everyone doing? I've had better days. We packed up the wife. She's headed back to Chicago, so she's driving cross country. I've had better days, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Good morning, Sterling. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Heinrich. I'm trying to get through this. It's a bunch of stuff again. Ecamm jumbles all the comments up. So I saw you put in a lot of stuff, Sterling. I'll have to try to scroll back through it. It's all jumbled. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, David Atkins. Good morning, Jake. Jake, could you send me? There's something wrong with the email address, support of Path Trading Partners. Could you send me your email at pathtradingpartners@gmail.com? Pathtradingpartners@gmail.com. I got to figure out what's going on with the support email, but I can't do that today. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, McRangers. Good morning, Royal Palms. Good morning, PMG. Good morning, Tony. Hello, Charles. Yeah, not a fun drive, but she's loaded up a car with all her stuff and moving on back. So, what else we have here? Good morning, John. We had the PCE numbers come out. We had some earnings yesterday. Sterling, thank you for putting them in. Like Dell was a misbeat. Alta was a beat. Costco was a beat, down slightly today. We also have, stuff from Greer talking about China and Trump saying they violated the deal, and who knows what's going to happen. And tariffs are back on because the Court of Appeals paused the pause. So this is the most chaotic in my 33 years of it being in this business. This is the most chaotic series of months I've ever. I mean, there's some chaos all the time. There's little bits and pieces, but this is just utter chaos. This is just utter chaos. Speaking of utter chaos, Z scaler beat. Oh boy. So we'll get to the PCE stuff in a second. Taco Friday. It is Taco Friday. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Andrea. Did I say good morning to Harold? Good morning, Harold. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. We had the PCE numbers coming in. Now, these were expected to be softer. Month over month, coming in at 0.1 is going to be very interesting. The May numbers. The May numbers are going to be interesting. Personal income coming in, a bump in personal income, expected 0.3. Prior was 0.7, now coming in 0.8. Personal spending dropping, but coming in at consensus. What else we have? The PCE, the headline coming in at 0.1, expected. Core PCE year over year expected to be 2.5 down from 2.7. We still have the Chicago PMI expected to be in contraction coming out 15 minutes after the cash open. Then we have consumer sentiment numbers and the inflation expectations. I would not ignore it at 10 a.m. print Eastern time. Then we got Bossack speaking and Goolsby speaking tonight. Sunday, we got Waller speaking. So, again, this is the last trading day of May. So far, the map looks slightly negative. I think it turned negative on Trump's comments on China, especially. So this is not reacting really to the PCE numbers. This is reacting to the tariff stuff and the comments on China that they're not following the agreement, and Trump was super nice to them, and they're not following the agreement. So we'll find out what that means. But mega caps down. Everything down today. Everything down. Every sector down. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated today with everything that's going on this morning. So Fed Watch. We still have 2 cuts. Let me just refresh this. I haven't refreshed it since the top or since prior. So right now we have still 2 cuts priced in. Fear and greed still solidly in greed mode. Schiller PE still above 36. Again, in terms of earnings today, nothing. I mean, unless you're interested in Shoe Carnival. But thank you again to Sterling for putting in all the key ones from yesterday afternoon. Again, that pretty much wraps up for the most part. We got some other dribble in earnings, but that wraps up a lot of your majors, I think, except for when's Broadcom? Thursday, that's next week. So that's our next, that's the remaining, I think the remaining big one. We'll take a look at well, we can look at ZN1 right now on a weekly. And yes, sterling is spot on. It has to close. You can all look at ZB1 yourself, but I trust sterling. I don't have it up here right now. But if it closes this week, this is a weekly chart on the note futures. If it closes above the high of last week, 110.17.5. Right now trading 110.21, that would be a percent B buy against critical support. So how it held critical support, and that would be a percent B buy with cycles at the bottom on the weekly. So very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out, Sterling. Well, this was already expected. Now next month all eyes are going to be focused on PCE again. So I think, again, thank you for pointing that out, Sterling. Other than that, we have the double top still in place. Yesterday was a back and forth day, running up and then reversing. Slightly below key support, but holding today. We slightly dipped below that just a little bit ago. But now going to be holding that. I'm going back to about 58.80 to 58.83 as the support level. If we did break below that, I'm at 58.65 to 58.67. And then what's critical, let me just pull off this other line real quick so you can see it. So these are the harmonics from the lows of the 23rd to the highs of the 29th. All right, this is the 50%. This 58.82 area, the one I just listed, 58.80 to 58.83, is a 50% harmonic. If we do break through there, minor to me is this 58.67 area. Major is this 58.50. If we close below 58.50.75, that then tips the probabilities where we could retest the lows from back the last Friday. If not, and that's for next week. But that's what I'm paying attention to very close today. On any rally, we have very strong resistance. I'm going to bump this line up to show you. Well, hold on. I got to undo something. I got to put on my other harmonics back. This is the key area I'm watching for the breakout. 59.20. So unless we got above there, I'd be watching for that to remain as key resistance and possible short-term sell setups. It'd have to get above there and sustain above there before I could do anything bullish. What else do we have? I'm just looking through the comments. Could you discuss the monthly percent B buy on the S&P? Hold on. Again, yeah, I mean, it shifts it temporarily to higher, but we're into. See, the reason I'm not as worried about this one is because we've already teched off that 75% into major resistance. So yes, it's already hit some very key levels. So that's why I'm still not bearish. Even if we trigger this double top, I'm still not incredibly bearish. We'd have to tip below. We'd have to start getting back below about 5,500 before we could easily trade back, but we'd have to start breaking down below 5,500 and starting to have failed rallies, and then I'd start turning more bearish, because we still do have short-term buy signals. We still have positive flows in this. So yes, thank you for pointing out that monthly. That is completely valid, and unless something happens major today, it will trigger. It will trigger with monthly cycles at the bottom, but there's got to be some real heavy lifting. Now, if all of a sudden all tariffs goes away and, maybe it could break out to potential new highs. We'll have to see. So I'm not counting on new highs anytime soon, but I am still in minorly bullish mode. Yes, there is a daily double top. This is a completely valid. Let me zoom back in. Let me pull off these so you can see it better. This is a completely valid daily double top. So if it closes back below 50, 750, 650, it would trigger the double top, and the pullbacks could be back to this just ahead of 5,500. So yes, that is, if I pull off everything, there you can clearly see it. That is a well-formed double top. Might never trigger. But what's interesting, it would be out of the way of the daily rotation zone and back to the weekly. If we look at the weekly would not technically be in the way because it's just the first cross of the weekly. So that could be very interesting. That could be very interesting, and that does trigger. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, we do not have. This extended too far. So this is not a double top. So what would happen if we started breaking, let's say we triggered the S&P one and we started to close below this key pivot point from last Friday. What would be my targets? It would be the breakout zone right here. See where my cursor's, let me put this back on. See, right, it would be this. My targets for the NASDAQ, since we can't use double targets, it would be 20,195, and then the end of the advanced clear path right around 19,825. Those would be my two targets. If we did trigger this not double top on the NASDAQ. That's how I'd structure my targets. Okay? I hope that helps clarify that. NASDAQ, my key resistance is this 21,430 area. And the key support, we spiked below it. But again, I'll be watching about 21,290 to 21,300. If we start breaking below 21,300, I'll start. This is only for today. I'll start going into more bearish mode. But if we close, especially beginning of next week, below 21,150, 150, then I'm going to shift into possibly retesting. Again, I'll invoke the 87.5 rule for watching for the retest of lows from Friday, and then we could have the bigger breakdown. And that's, if I didn't explain that on the S&P, if we start to close below 62.5, that could be a front run pattern for the double, which means I'd be looking for short trades to tick off the 87.5. But then if we then manage to close back below and trigger the double, then I continue to be more aggressively bearish. The Dow, this is a little sloppy because of this. It's not, it's almost a blend between a really downward sloping head and shoulders, which we don't trade. That's why I was looking at it as a double. But the Dow going into next week, if we did close below 41,236, would trigger the double for the bigger pullback. Other than that, there's really not much to talk about in the Dow. This is the one I'm not looking for anything right now. NASDAQ and S&P are first and foremost for the better trades, for my opinion. So, Russell, another one that is just a mess right now. And being the Russell is the weakest, I'll look to this if we start rolling over and breaking down, but the Russell has really break below this 2032 level again. Other than that, on any rally, your minor resistance is 2083, the major resistance is 2095. The VIX, a little pop in there, but not paying much attention unless we start basing above 20 today from the bearish case. The DAX, if we wrote, this is just getting into a mess. It's still technically a double. It's probably not going to trigger. I'll leave it on there through next week, but this could be turning into a multi-top. Again, trend's still up. Trend's still up. We already talked about the notes right there with especially the weekly percent B buy. So we'll have to see on that. The yields trying to break down again, a little thing. I really want to see how the yields close today in relation to 4.43. 30-year still holding back below 5. But again, everything's so up in the air with where are tariffs standing, what's going to happen. Hey, Christoph, how you doing? So, dollar index Still holding above this channel line. Nothing else has invalidated the potential massive double bottom pattern on the weekly basis. So that's the only major thing I'm watching. That's the only major thing I'm watching. In the short term, I'll sit up and take notice if we get above 99.50 from the bullish side. Other than that, we'd have to break below this channel before I do anything from the bearish side. Crude, again, there's been a lot of dip buying going in here. How many times has it confirmed but not triggered the double? Double still not triggered. Okay, we were down back below that earlier today on stuff from OPEC, but now we're back above there. Gold, still trying to base above 32.84. Not much to talk about there. It has to get back above the channel line for the breakout. It technically is triggered to 62.5 level, so I'm still watching for a push up, even and this channeling double to fail. Copper, not much to talk about there. Again, everything's sort of in limbo. I'm going to be looking for when June starts to get more clarification. Yen, not much here. Euro, I don't believe. Let's see. Hold on. Oh boy, I got too many lines. Let me clear this up a little. Let me see here. So that qualifies, but does this qualify? No, it does not. So we do not have a little mini double top there. We do not. It does not qualify. Now the spiders, we still have the potential double top just as the S&P. The difference is, by the way, today gap down. I'm paying attention to yesterday's low price in the spiders, 586 essentially, and on any rally, the gap fill 590.05 on any rally. We still have the potential double going into next week. We need a close below 575.60 to trigger. The Qs, you see it did not hit the extension of the 25% extension, so we do still have the potential double top in the Qs, not in the futures, but in the Qs we do. Okay, so yesterday's low is 517.32. We're trading 519.19. That's the key area I'm going to be paying attention to, especially with the rotation zone there. Natty gas. Natty gas. Charles, you want some? Natty gas. I mean, it's only would be very short term. We're caught in a big trading range. So I mean, if looking for anything short term, it's really just a break above 357 to take you into a clear path move to potentially retest the key resistance area. Other than that, the breakdown play is below yesterday's low, but those are very short term stuff. Curious to your view on bonds. Those said to be dead live longer. I still think we're going to see higher yields for longer. So I'm not in the where you have technical signals that could be bullish, but for the short term. But I'm still going to be watching for yields to continue to climb, unless tariffs are just trashed. If tariffs just go away, or again, let's say because the appeal is going to be appealed again, it's going to have to be decided on by the Supreme Court. For a lot of stuff. If tariffs start disappearing or Trump is severely handcuffed with tariffs, then I will change my tune. Even though it could be just a one-time pop in some inflationary aspects, I think we're going to see, even with the milder PCE readings today, I still think we're going to be stuck in the core range of 2.5% to possibly 3%. unless we start getting into a major recession. If we start getting into a major recession, again, I'll change my tune. I think today is going to be another good day to sell NDX and SPX iron condors. I sold one yesterday, worked out perfectly. Could be, very well, could be. Sterling. What else do we have here? There's just not a lot to talk about today. So Tesla, still a little down today, but there's not a great bearish setup. It's still buy the dips, but cautiously, because you got it has not triggered the 62.5 rule. And unless this starts breaking back down below 333, not interested in any shorts just yet. Nvidia, little gap down today, but has not ticked off the 87.5 rule yet. Broadcom, which we have earnings next week, is retesting very major resistance and very overbought. I'm actually interested to see if this can eke out a new high ahead of earnings with a massive divergence. So that's where I'm going to wrap it up today. I'm not going to do anything silly today because it's the end of month. We might get some window dressing. That's the other thing I'm being cautious about with end of month window dressing. It's not end of quarter, but it's end of month. And there's just not a lot of great setups. And the news, we got consumer sentiment coming out in 30 minutes. So that's going to really set the tone for me for today. Unless we get a ton out from the administration, I'm really going to refocus on the beginning of June and see if we get much better setups going into next week. So MRVL has set up a potential weekly double top that may trigger today after earnings. It does have a nice double top there. Should call it a potential double top. Yep. I want to see where that would fall in relation to the interesting. Thanks for pointing that one out. We got cycles approaching the top. So down after earnings, it was a beat. I don't know what they guided to. But that is an interesting potential setup. Thank you for pointing that one out, Sterling. All right, with that, I'm gonna sign off for today. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I shall talk to everyone on Monday. Bye for now.